Welcome to a football show Monday edition following a shutout of the Tennessee Titans at the hands of the Houston Texans for an 0-4 start to the season and their 10th consecutive loss. That is Paul Kaharski. I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. And yet, PK, there is still plenty of hope inside the building. How are you, Paul? How are the travels?
Oh, it was very fast. Came back actually last night, which is a rarity, but pulled it off beautifully. So slept in my own bed, which was nice. And here I am.
Is that one night over? Is that one overnight?
Yes.
Ah, nice. That's nice.
And I've actually, I told this story to the press corps. I made a timing error and overslept a nap, and I left my home at 6:16 for a 7:05 flight on Saturday evening, and actually made that flight.
How long a drive is it from your house? Because I know kind of where you live. So about 45 minutes, 30 minutes?
No, 20, 25, 27.
Okay. No, normally I plan to get to the airport at like an hour before my flight takes off, and I haven't missed a flight yet. So generally B&A is pretty fast, but you never know.
That was ridiculous.
Well, good for you. You are a hero, a modern American hero.
I am.
If you want to get into the comment section, as many of you already have, Forrest says yes, end the show. But Diamond says, good afternoon. It's not really a good afternoon since Callie is still the coach, though. Every day that goes by, guys, we're getting closer and closer. Predemption said it's been a while since I've been on for a live show. Hi, Braden. Hi, Paul. Hi, Predemption. How are you?
Hello.
And did the Titans game going less than 3 hours help with that, PK?
It did help, though. The outgoing wasn't going to be that bad. I just think some of these people are really going to be surprised when the Titans aren't a dominant, fantastic football team when Brian Callahan is gone.
Sam says he was better today. I'm assuming he's talking about Brian Callahan. And follow-up question, is Sam now a co-host on the 440 Sports Network?
Yeah, maybe.
Is the check in the mail? That's what I'd like to say.
Well,
no, he did a great job. He did a great job with you.
Yeah. We did a midweek report last week, which he hosted and did very well at. The question is about the sustainability of the midweek report.
Excellent work, though, Sam, and appreciate you joining us today on the show. You're going to hear from Brian Callahan. Why do you want him fired? Why do you want him fired this week, Eddie? Are you talking? I assume you're talking about Brian Callahan. So we'll get to all of that at some point. And kind of everything we talk about from now on, PK, will be laced with that conversation. Unfortunately, that is the situation they have put themselves in. But he has experience coming out of these things, and so we'll get to one of the most important answers, in your opinion, of his press conference today, which is around that hope. But let's talk about some of the stuff with the game first and foremost. Let's hear from Callahan here on Cam Ward first, because I know you have a teenage son, and I never thought that having teenage children would help me in my work, but it's possible. Here was Brian Callahan on Cam Ward and his intensity after the game.
I think what everyone is learning about Cam is that he cares a tremendous amount. It's really important to him. He wants to win football games. He wants to deliver winning performances for our organization, for our fans. That's what he cares about. There's nothing else that he has any interest in other than playing football and trying to play football at a high level. And those responses, for him, that he wears his emotions a little bit out there, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because at the end of the day, I know where it's coming from, and I know why he's the way he is in those moments, is because he wants nothing more than to play well and win.
All right, so we ass is the big one. I've already got 2 different text messages with T-shirts created out of AI with that printed on it with a Titans logo. I'm curious if you think the Tennessee Titans could make a fortune selling those shirts right now, because I think they could.
Well, they're not going to sell them. Well, we should sell them. I don't know who's going to buy a shirt that says "we ass" about their team. I'm sure he will say things that are T-shirt worthy. I don't know the market for "we ass."
I've been asked twice this morning about it, so I don't.
Well, there's
obviously I'm just saying I'm underestimating the market. I think you are maybe as well.
Well, look, he was very candid. talked about his play, talked about their play, used language that I think helps emphasize the point. I always love when guys use language because everybody's publisher is a prude and paulkuharsky.com is not. And so
all of us
love
independent,
that.
all of us
All the
independent shops.
independents are not prudes. So look, he was candid and he was accurate, and he wasn't trying to put a happy face on anything. And there was no happy face to be put on anything yesterday.
No, there wasn't.
You know, it was 6-0 at the start of the fourth. But I don't know. And, you know, had Sly hit his 2 field goals, which are totally makeable Joey Sly field goals, it would have been 6-6. But I don't know that that changes anything about where the game goes from there. The defense folded and the offense did nothing.
Are you buying? Brian talked a little bit today about how they're just at the start of each quarter, around the fourth quarter, they've been in games, had opportunities to win, which I think technically is true. But are you buying into that being a thing that he should be focusing on with his team? I'm not saying the fans give 2 shits about that, but do you think that's a? Do you believe him? Are you in agreement with? He says, "Man, we got to learn how to finish. We got to finish. We got to make plays. We're not making the plays in the most important times of the games to finish those games when we had opportunities to win them." I think that's a little rose-colored glasses to some degree, but it's factually true, right?
I mean, they're not making plays. They had 33-yard long pass, 27-yard long run. They don't take shots. They're gun shy. 3rd and 12, and they run. You know, 3rd and 10, setting up a field goal, and they run. You know, why not throw in some of these situations? They're scared to death. They're scared of the shadow. And look, if you're scared of turning it over, I mean, every team has plays for those situations where, I mean, you could take a shot at the end zone in the one circumstance before the field goal, before the half. Every team has a play there that is a touchdown or an incompletion play. Is it low percentage? Of course it's low percentage. Take the low percentage shot at the damn end zone in case you score a touchdown, in case you draw pass interference, in case something happens. You just concede that nothing's going to happen. And that manifests itself. And I think it sends a vibe through the team, consciously or subconscious.
I think L'Jarius Sneed being totally cooked by Nico Collins, the guy he's talking trash about, on 2nd and 33 in a 6-0 game going into the fourth quarter, just a terrible play. I'm not saying Sneed has been terrible, but that was a terrible play. And that play on 2nd and 33, those are plays you remember for the rest of the season. And that is, like, I agree with Brian when he says, hey, we're close. We just got to finish out and make a few plays. But I think context and nuance will tell you that they're just not yet right now. So Josh says, we bought Mayo cologne. Why would we not buy Ash shirts?
I think there's a step from one to the other. I don't know. Maybe single people will wear We Ass shirts.
Yeah. Well, I always go to college football games, and I always see the FUCK other team, you know, Michigan, Ohio State, or whatever. And I'm always like, that's a choice. You know, you got to be probably young. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll say it, but I'm not going to wear it on my chest for very long. I read this, and I like Jim Wyatt's self-awareness in his 6 things about Cam's language. Ward said, when asked went wrong, everything from an interception to a penalty to an incompletion by me, a bad ball. Once we pass the 50-yard line, we're just not continuing the drives. If we keep it a buck right now, we ass. If we keep it a buck right now, of course, means keeping it honest, keeping it 100. For those of you who have teenage sons, my question to you, PK, is having a teenage son in high school, talking like, because Cam Ward speaks exactly like Gen Z. He does the hand, like this motion here. That is in my 4th graders or my 3rd graders lunchroom all the time. Like, it is very much a Gen Z thing, as Jim alluded to. Does having a teenage son give you better handle and appreciation for covering pro athletes now that we are very old?
It would if I was around him to get that. That was conveyed to us by Teron Davenport for those of us that were writing together. I think Jim got it wrong on his first crack and was corrected by Buck, who sent him a text. If we're keeping it a buck,
keeping it 100.
So,
I love it.
well, people don't want somebody like me talking like that or
Right,
pretending they know it.
No, I did.
So
I
gotta translate.
there is a strategy though to talking to your children to get them to stop talking like that by using those phrases.
Yeah, they
use those phrases.
I
to
started
get them,
throwing around Riz and all that stuff. This was maybe 2 years ago. There was somebody that I was following on Reels that was like a middle-aged guy talking skibbity and all that stuff.
Skibbity
and
Riz,
I
man.
started using it, but mostly incorrectly around the house, and it drove him insane.
No cap. So
That's exactly right.
You do that stuff all the time and they'll just stop using it. So I'm excited about having teenage daughters that will teach me the words that I can then use to cover a very young professional quarterback in the NFL. All right. So let me ask you about Cam in general. And that is, I thought it was an interesting question by Nick Suss today, where he said he kind of asked about regression. You know, do you feel like Cam Ward regressed? And
It's a
Callahan,
funny answer.
Callahan kind of scoffed and said, oh, it's 4 games. It's hard to be regressive in those 4 games, which I guess is technically true. And then immediately spoke about the positive being the Colts game in the second half, which means if you're not talking about the game you just played, it means he did take a step back. And so,
well, yeah,
I'd
but
like
it's
to know
a
what you think
bad
about
game as opposed to a regression. I agree with that. With such a small sample size, I wouldn't say a guy's regressing. He didn't play well. I mean, he threw the ball all over the place, wild. I don't know why he's off platform and side arming a throw to Isle Manor that winds up picked off. It's behind Isle Manor. People are more willing to give Isle Manor shit for it than Cam. It's a really difficult catch to go back against how you're running. It's a pretty good job getting 2 hands on it. It's a bad throw. He's making bad throws to his right. A little earlier, made bad throw to his left. I think to DK that was well short of him into the ground. His accuracy was piss poor. He was under some pressure. He ran away from it a couple times. That was good. But what is he, 10 for 26? I mean, those are not all throwaways and drops. There's a lot of misses in there, and he was part of the problem yesterday. Yeah, look, we were talking in the press box. There were really 3 guys who weren't part of the problem yesterday. Simmons, Gray, who played a really good game, we thought, and Pollard, who ran better than he's run. Actually, got over 20 yards on a carry and ran tough. And didn't get enough carries to make it count, really.
So I do think those types of throws, which we've seen a lot of to Ridley, we saw that was, I mean, it's so funny to me that the throw to Van Jefferson in the preseason is like the embodiment of the throw that we are now discussing, which is the one to Isle Manor. It's the one to Ridley in previous games. It's the one to Chig going down the seam 2 weeks ago against the Colts, where he just it's just like the question I think we need to ask is like, does he need to learn to put touch on the football? Because it's clear that it's not his arm's problem here, but it's not like you got to adjust to your receivers. I realize he's not throwing to Tony Gonzalez and Jerry Rice here, but like at the end of the day, you have to adjust to them as the quarterback. So when are those throws going to be all on him? That's kind of what I'm getting, because I felt like a lot of those plays have been on the receivers. Ridley's drops, I thought Chig probably should have caught the one down the seam. Isle Manor is a tough catch. I agree with you. But a lot of folks were all on Van Jefferson about that throw against Atlanta in the preseason. And I was one of the few people that said, man, that's a really, really hard catch. And if he just puts a tiny bit more loft on it, it's an easier run underneath it and catch it. At some point, he's got to learn that his guys are not that good. I don't know. Maybe that's the lesson.
Rapid Reactions is saying there, you're asking Cam to change his game because his receivers are ass. No, I mean, that ball that's behind Isle Manor, I'm asking him to throw it in front of Isle Manor.
Yeah.
And that's not that's a poorly thrown ball. That's not Isle Manor being ass. I mean, Isle Manor didn't have a great game either, but I think you've got to lead a receiver and not put it behind him. He threw several balls that were behind guys yesterday. So this isn't, to me, I mean, they're 2 separate conversations here. One's about overall accuracy. Then I think there are some situations where, you don't have to throw your fastball every single time. There are some situations where it's ridiculous to ask him to take stuff off. There are
True.
other situations that call for a little more touch than he's been willing to exhibit or able to exhibit.
Let's go some comments here. Shrike says, why is Ridley taking off running routes when he had 2 nice catches early on and then they just pulled him off? Any
He was
insight there?
apparently a little bit hurt, and
Yeah.
his workload was trimmed because he was a little bit hurt.
There's a lot of talk in the comments here about sort of stealing winnable games. Let me see if I can get to the first one. So this is six wins is the goal, but we haven't played a team where we should beat them yet. And then there's a lot of comments about some of the games. Like, I don't know what expectations
Should have beat the Texans. I mean, the Texans are 0-3. Texans have a terrible offensive line. You're not a good pass rushing team, but you should do more with that. And they had them. The Texans aren't a juggernaut offensively. Titans defensively should have stayed in that game, and they should have found a way to win a low scoring game. If you're looking at football teams in general, football, a bad football team against a bad football team, you should have a chance at that. Look, I've covered the worst Titans teams, and the worst Titans teams you felt like on a given Sunday, they could walk into a building and they might play well today and they might win against all but the very best teams. I don't feel that way at all about this team. I don't go into the building breathing oxygen that feels like, well, if things go well today, they'll be in this game. Right now, I don't think and I don't think Arizona's particularly good. I don't think the Raiders are particularly good.
9-point underdog.
I don't think the Patriots are good, but I think Vrabel, I've said this since the game came out, since
I'm with you now.
Playing, that Vrabel will destroy them. And I haven't looked at the schedule beyond that, but I can't find a game that I say, oh, they'll be in that game. They'll contend to win that game. They're going to find a win right now. They feel like an 0-17 team. Now, I still think you tend to win a game by accident, but I feel less convicted about that than I've ever felt before.
Yeah. This is from Dalton. That's my biggest gripe with Callahan. He claims he's not looking over his shoulder or worried about being fired. Then he continues to manage the game like he's terrified to lose instead of to win.
Well,
those
are not. Put that back up. Those are not mutually exclusive. He cannot be afraid of being fired and still be coaching overly conservative.
Cautiously, yeah. I agree with that. There's one back here that's interesting. Eddie says, Hardegree is the quarterback coach. He's the main guy responsible for Ward and is a respected mind across the league, according to me. Though his play calling, I wanted to hear. So Callahan had an interesting answer today where he kind of talked about, like, I didn't really know what to do with my hands, like, during the game. It was very interesting. I thought it was honest, and I appreciate that about him. And there was a little rust there. What are your thoughts on sort of the way the game unfolded play calling wise now that Bo Hardegree calling plays for the first time?
It wasn't very different. I mean, these short, these runs on long yardage situations, bad. And then I did expect to see trick plays because that's something that they haven't done. And
they were terrible. Both of them
really
were terrible.
Spelled out. I mean, not only were they terrible, but they both came at times where the Titans were kind of moving the ball. And conventional play calling there might have kept them moving the ball, and these threw up huge red stop signs that were drive killing attempts that really didn't serve them well. So it's going to take more than one game of Hardegree, but he's still calling out of the same playbook and with the same people. So a bad mix of he didn't do a good job in one game. He's got the same bad talent, and they've got the same maybe playbook, that isn't lending them great stuff.
Oh, Richard, this won't be the first time we hear this comment. I'm starting to think they should have traded the pick, built a better foundation, and get the quarterback next year. This isn't a kick on Cam. It's just a state of the roster. I don't think it matters
which direction they do it in. If Cam proves to be a good quarterback, and I think he's shown us enough that I think he's going to be a good quarterback, and they get 1, 2, or 3, and it looks like 1 next year, this in 06, and are able to trade it for a bounty and hit on most of the bounty. I don't know that it matters in what order you did it, except if you get the bounty first, you're developing people
a more successful environment for the quarterback to step into. I do think, and I'm writing this with you on your website, paulkarski.com, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Wings Barbecue. I do think that the quarterback class next year could be historic. I don't know if it develops into starting star power. That's just a wait and see thing. But I do think there's a chance that we have more quarterbacks taken we could set a record for quarterbacks taken in the first round. Famous words, of course, at this stage of the process in week 5 of the NFL college football season. But that is an interesting, and I do think trading down at next year already should be a very real thing if you are picking number 1 for back-to-back years, which has happened 3 times, by the way. Back-to-back number 1 overall picks has happened 3 times in the last 10 years.
And the Titans went 2-1, which served the same purpose for them when they drafted Marcus and traded out of it.
Jason says Stroud was consistently hitting guys who just sat down in open windows, while Titans wide receivers are always blanketed and immediately hammered. And Stroud missed some open receivers too yesterday. It could have actually been worse in the first half. He missed, I think he missed Schultz down the seam. He missed a couple of other ones too. So.
There was one I'm thinking of though, but based on that comment where the guy just turned and sat and sat and sat, and Stroud finally hit him. And then it took another 2 seconds for people to come close on him as he turned and got a couple more yards.
This is a good one from Rapid because I think there was a lot of conversation around the defense, sort of just the dam breaking yesterday in Houston. Rapid says, until the offense carries their weight, the defense will continue to fold in the fourth. 40-plus minutes every game on the field is crazy. I think that's a valid complaint, considering the way Gray and Simmons certainly played yesterday. That is for sure.
That's a valid complaint, but the Titans aren't talented on defense. I mean, I think that is a career game for Gray. I don't think he's a terrific player by any means. Simmons is a terrific player right now. He's playing. I mean, he's had a great career and he's playing as well as he's ever played, probably. But who's next? Who's the next player that you list? I mean, Hooker and Woods are good players. They're not playing well. Hooker
played a terrible game 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago he was terrible. In this game, he wasn't very good. I mean, who's the second best player on that defense? Name a name.
Is it about Cam Ward
name a
here?
Name.
Oh, for me?
Yeah, I'm having trouble thinking who the second name I would name is.
I mean, based on their totality, or just like who's playing the best football right now?
Like who's played the best football through a quarter of the season besides Jeffery Simmons? Who's the second best player on that defense? I can't.
It's probably Amani Hooker.
I think with that one really bad game overall, it's hard to name him. If we're naming him, it's because of the lack of other choices. It's not a cornerback. It's not an inside linebacker.
It's not Cody Barton.
Barton's been pretty invisible for what you wanted to see out of him. I mean, it could be, those other defensive linemen have played very solidly. We haven't heard McCreary's name, which is a good thing, but as really slim pickings playing this game that nobody's jumping them on.
I think your point is taken. Francisco says, does his stature amplify the challenges of his sidearm delivery, particularly when throwing over taller defensive linemen in the pocket? I don't think that's a question yet. I think by the end of the season, if we are still seeing the same platform arm slot issues, because he had this issue in camp where he was getting passes deflected early on at the line of scrimmage, and it was causing a lot of problems. And then he made adjustments to that. And so I think he's very good at that, and we will see if that happens. But I think that's something to keep an eye on, I think, down the road. I think I'm more concerned with, and Brian said it today, I think I'm more concerned with the fact that he is missing shots down the field, holding the ball a beat too long, taking the sack. I think there's footwork, pocket presence stuff that he just has to iron out. And if he does that, I think he can be good.
I think the sidearm stuff has been more of an issue outside of the pocket. I think when he gets on the move, he really likes to get down there, almost like his head's going where my head's going if you're watching, and it throws the whole mechanics out. He's like the Yankee reliever Tim Hill, who throws that swooper down there, and I don't know. I just think it's really does not throw a catchable ball from me.
All right, let's get to some more Cali here. This was the one shot that I do think they got screwed on, which is a blatant hit to the face of Cam Ward on that first drive, which does kind of set the tone. If you get that penalty and you're down inside the 20, you're only tripping the red zone, potentially. Maybe that changes the dynamic of the start of the game.
I did not. I made a lot of stink about it to those guys, and I kept asking, how did we not see that? And those are always, when there's that many guys on the boundary, and it was 2 or 3 guys in front of him, and he got a pretty good shot right on the top of his head, and I was mad about it. Certainly that wasn't called. I felt like that should have been a penalty, and again, you can't control what they call and don't call, but I felt like that that was a pretty clear roughing the passer.
What's
sound
he
like
what's
Go
he
ahead.
allowed to say there?
I-
How close did he get to the line?
No, I think he's fine.
Okay.
They sound like whining babies because they're such a bad football team. But 2 weeks in a row, they've gotten screwed. That penalty hurts them. And look, he's got to make a decision quicker on the field goal or go for it thing. But they did get screwed on the kicking ball not getting into the game. And this is where I think the Titans are just a lay down team always. Like somebody in the organization needs to come out, take the fine, do whatever. Amy should pay the fine and come out and say, look, we're struggling and it's not helping us that the referees are fucking us. And here's the film of 2+. Show it. Come in after Callahan's thing and show it. Here's the kicking ball. Here's our guy handing the kicking ball. Here's our snapper asking for the kicking ball. There's still 15 seconds in the clock. How much notice does this official right here need for us to be allowed to kick a field goal? That, yeah, we took 2 timeouts and we took our time or whatever. We're still entitled to get the goddamn kicking ball on the field. And here's our rookie quarterback, number 1 pick in the draft, getting drilled in the head. And this is a penalty for everybody else. And yeah,
if that's
right
Patrick
now,
Mahomes.
And how is this working against us? I don't know how that would be received nationwide, but it would let some air out of the valve in Nashville. And I think the Titans just sit back and take it through regime after regime. I remember having this conversation with Rustin Webster. Like, you're making a big mistake. You just sit back and you take whatever the league doles out and you're a good citizen. And it's bullshit. When the league gives it to you, give it back.
I mean, I think this is where you're right to talk to the owner about this. I think that the owner can come out and say something like this and take the fine and kind of build a wall and a barrier in front of her organization. Because if that's Patrick Mahomes, that is like the lead of if that's Patrick Mahomes and it doesn't get called and they lose the game, obviously 26-0 notwithstanding, that is the lead on like every get up in the morning or whatever. Like that is the lead on Good Morning Football. The anti-Chiefs sentiment in the league office? ? Like that's what it turns into. So I am quick to say to Titans fans, stop it with the conspiracy garbage. I'm quick to say that. I think blaming officials for losing games generally is a bad look. I think it's lazy fandom. I think one bad call doesn't indicate that you should win or lose the game. It happens. They're human beings. They're not on the take. Right. I think that's a crazy thing to say to folks. I think this one was a terrible call that humans made a mistake on, and it was blatantly obvious. I watched it in real time and I was like, whoa, what are we doing? So I do think they have a right to say that stuff. It doesn't mean that they were good enough to win the game.
No.
Yeah, so two things can be true. You know who was good enough to win the game? Jeffery Simmons. Here was his coach on the play of the defensive lineman.
Jeff has played at a level that I've not seen many defensive players play at. He's been absolutely fantastic in every way, shape, or form you could ask of him. I don't know that there's somebody playing interior defensive line at the level he's playing at right now. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's been super disruptive in the running game. He's getting pressure and push on the quarterback. And then I think what the area that I'm probably the most proud of him and excited for him is his leadership and how he carries himself and talks to the team. And that area of his professional growth has been incredible. It's really been cool to see that maturity process in the leadership role. It's cool. It really is. And he's backing it up with how he plays. And I point him out all the time because, you got a team of guys that can play like Jeff plays. Now, Jeff's also supremely talented. He's one of the top players in his position for a reason. But he backs it up with how he works and how he plays and the effort he plays with and the tenacity he plays with. And then on top of that, he's really grown in a leadership role. So he's been fantastic.
All right, you and I have talked a lot about Jeffery Simmons. Hard to argue the play on the field. The best player on the team, both sides, all three phases, et cetera, et cetera. I saw his comments after the game in the locker room. We saw him take responsibility in both the Denver game and throughout the course of the season. Are you buying into the new, slightly evolved version of Jeffery Simmons off the field as a leader? Is it helping the rest of the team? I mean, it seems like he is the newer trimmed down body has led directly to a more disruptive form of play and a really, really good start to the season for at least one player on the team.
Yeah, I'm buying it. I think he's still got a mental block on, he said this after Indianapolis, big runs not counting on run defense. Well, there were a couple big runs, and so that makes the run defense not look good. He doesn't get that run average. A big run hurts the run average, and that's the number.
And if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah, so that's one thing that he doesn't seem to have moved on. But other than that, Jeff Simmons, it's hard to have any complaint about him, and I've had very public qualms with his leadership style and his sensitivity, and it doesn't seem to be much of a factor for him this year. I think he doesn't have many people to lead. Sweat's not there. And I think, could be heading, sadly, the route of Jarvis Brownlee if he's not careful. So we got to see what Sweat does when he returns and what kind of work he's willing to put in, what kind of mentorship he's allows Jeff to offer him. But it's not Jeff's fault what's on the roster and what he can and cannot work with.
Ed says, should we be concerned that there wasn't more of the team coming towards defense like Lawan did for Mariota?
Simmons was right there. Simmons was right there. I think maybe more of the offense should have come to his defense. But I mean, I think people are looking for stuff to read into more than there's an issue there to me.
I tend to agree. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. If you guys are in the comments, please share the product. Thumbs up on the YouTube page. Notifications turned on. We'll have more time for your comments coming up in just a little bit, of course.
Richard,
go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, Richard Snyder has a good comment there for Simmons' motivation. Looking for guaranteed money is a hell of a motivator, and I certainly do think that's at play.
I mean, why wouldn't it be for all humans? I don't have a problem with that. A lot of people say that. I don't think you are. A lot of people say that like it's a negative, but I get it. I understand why people get frustrated by that. So Sinkers Beverages, 4-time liquor store of the year. If you are watching the Titans game, as we mentioned last week, this was going to be a tough one to watch. And at 6-0 going into the fourth quarter with a bunch of missed field goals and no red zone trips, it was. You're gonna need beverages. You're gonna need beer. You're gonna need liquor. You're gonna need wine. You're gonna need champagne. You got all those options at a craft, a walk-in beer fridge that is award-winning, and the 4-time champion liquor store of the year in Nashville. Sinkers Beverages. Search Uber Eats and have the booze delivered directly to your watch party as they're on the road for a couple of more games out west. And we'll see what happens as a 9-point dog against the Arizona Cardinals, which is not a great football team. To be favored by that many points is alarming. Obviously, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue as well. Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can go get that award-winning brisket, award-winning side items, mechanical bull. You can ride that if you're interested. Right after Sinkers Beverages probably would be the best time to do that. Free parking as well. That, again, Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay, so all of this, Paul, leads us to a 10-game losing streak, 0-4, the worst team in the NFL, the worst offense in the NFL by a large margin. They've already taken away play-calling duties. The quarterback he seems like he's the future, but it did take a step back this past week. The refs aren't giving him the calls. You can't name a second player outside of Jeffery Simmons that is worth talking about. All of this, in theory, and I love sort of, I assume your brain in the press conference today, PK, was sort of, you had asked a question about the Thursday practice early in the press conference. And the question was sort of about, hey, you had a lot of players talked about this. They had their best practice of the year, or they had a great practice, or however you wanted to find it on Thursday. It did not translate. A few questions go by, and I think I can hear you thinking from my office in East Nashville saying, well, if that was so good and it didn't work, what's next? And you asked him about hopelessness, and this was Brian Callahan's answer today.
Hopelessness? I sure hope not. I don't feel hopeless. I know that. I don't sense that from anybody that works in our building. I don't sense that from our players. Look, we're in a rough stretch. We're 0-4, and that doesn't feel good. No one's excited about that, but I do feel their willingness and there's an excitement about trying to climb out of it too. There's something about that's real competitors relish that challenge, and I think we got a bunch of competitors on our team and on our coaching staff and in our building that are going to fight like crazy to turn this thing, man. That's the fun part about these jobs is you get in these adverse situations and you're trying to find a way out. And trust me, I've done it before, been a part of it before in a couple places, but that reward and that feeling there's nothing like it. And then that's what keeps me going is that moment we could find a way to get turned is really something that you can't find anywhere, that feeling of accomplishment. And I think that's what drives us. And I think our guys are excited about the chance to go try to prove it.
I think that answer about hopelessness, the question about hopelessness gave him hope. He came alive there and actually talked about, and I know people don't want to hear it or whatever, but he talked about the thrill of coming out on the other side there. And for at least a minute, he escaped into the world of coming out the other side. And what a thrill it is. And having been a part of it a couple other places and envisioning it happening here. Now, I know most of us do not see that, but it's his job to still see it as long as he's here. And he talked earlier about, no coach can live his life thinking about his job security and whatever. You just have to keep going to work. And that's what he's going to work for. They made it pretty clear there. He's going to work thinking about hope and coming out of it and the feeling that gives you on the other side. I thought he's had some really bad moments at the microphone lately.
Yeah.
And whether people believe he believes that or not, I found that entirely the Brian Callahan I know, like a sincere, good, well-meaning human being.
I think he totally believes it. And what I find fascinating about sports in general, because there is, if anyone's ever been a part of any team, growing up, baseball, soccer, football, hockey, doesn't matter. And you're in middle school, you're high school, you're playing a sport. If you're lucky enough to play in college, you can always tell where the turn happens in a game or in a season. And you can always feel it because then it starts to build on itself and it starts to snowball. And that is what he's talking about. And he has experienced it. So I do believe him when he talks about the Bengals turnaround and some of the other places that he's turned it around. We talk all the time about Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. They were 3-19-1. And they still kept going with the plan. And what I find the most fascinating about this, because I believe him when he said that answer. And I agree with you to notice that and to say, he looked like he was more into that answer than anything else he was talking about. The question is and this is, I think, ultimately, and Stillman and I were talking about this on Stillman and Company, which is, who do you trust in the building to know when that is still possible? And that is ultimately what we're trying to get at here, which is, I don't know if they're having conversations about the future of Brian Callahan. If you're not, then I don't know if you're doing your job. We've talked about the New England game. If you lose the New England game and you're 0-7 and it's ugly, the owner doesn't particularly enjoy those kinds of embarrassing moments, nor does anyone else. But the most intelligent football people in the circle making the decisions are Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi. And the question a lot of Titans fans have is, do we trust them to handle this, or do they need to sort of clean the slate, which they've never really done? They fire Robinson, but not Vrabel. They fire Vrabel, but not Carthon. They fire Carthon, but not Brinker. They've never really cleaned the whole thing at any point over the last 5 or 6 years through all of the changes. And so the question is, I think it is incredibly difficult to know when to shit or get off the pot on these things around coaching. It's real. Sometimes you know right away and you just got to move on, right? And sometimes you know right away because it's great. But in this moment, the things that he's talked about, the Bengals, and I'll talk about the Lions, how do we know that there's someone in the building that is giving the right advice to Amy and to the other people making the decision about the future of the coaching staff, that it is in fact possible to still come out the other side, to take all the things we've learned, the adversity, and to actually begin that upward climb out where it does build on itself. You gain confidence and momentum, and it snowballs upward, if that makes sense. And I just don't know if we have the answer, Brinker and Borgonzi have by far the most football experience of anybody in that front office by a country mile. So I don't know where you're at on this, but the question is, how do you know if it's still possible? And that is a really, really hard thing to answer.
It's hard for me to think it's still possible because I've seen so little, but I do think the roster is crap. And I don't think there's some magic. I think too many people think firing Callahan, there's some magic solution on the staff who's going to turn this roster into something that it's not. Rapid Reaction says there, if you don't trust Amy Adams Strunk at the highest level, the organization won't be fixed.
That's not, that's.
Her father wasn't particularly good, and they went to a Super Bowl. She wasn't particularly good, and they went to an AFC championship game. So it's possible for this organization to have success with this ownership. And again, if what you're getting at is they need new ownership, we're not going there because it's not.
Well, and I don't think her
Guy who owns the convenience store down the street from me. And guess what? It doesn't do me any good to wish for new ownership there because it's also not getting sold.
I mean, I really wish someone else owned paulkaharski.com, but it's not going to happen. No, I think it's almost the idea that Amy Adams Strunk, and this is not a knock on her in any way. You get these teams and these pieces of these commodities because you were born into a family. I mean, that is what it is. Her football acumen is irrelevant, in my opinion, to the future of the organization. And I know people think that's crazy. What you have to have is incredibly intelligent football people to make all the hard decisions. And so my issue is right now, you've got to sit around and evaluate everything all the time. And you're evaluating this football coach and this coaching staff. And if you remove Brinker and Borgonzi from that equation, and I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, I don't know. But if you remove them from the equation, who is left to sit around and make football decisions? And that is Amy Adams Strunk, Burke Nihill, and maybe Bryce Wasserman, right? I don't know who else is in that room.
Not people you want making decisions. And the other thing is,
those folks don't have football experience to make football decisions.
No. And go to the ownership thing. Even if for some reason she decided to sell, the NFL has people lined up. Jerry Richardson. Yeah. Jerry Richardson got forced out in Carolina because he did stupid stuff. Jerry Richardson was a football man. David Tepper was the greatest next owner in line. How has that worked out?
Yeah. No, so it puts him in a tough spot, and it's a tough thing to do. There's a reason winning in the NFL is extremely difficult. Playing quarterback in the NFL is extremely difficult. Winning a championship, being a great coach, all extremely difficult stuff. This is why you get paid the money you get paid. But I maybe I should ask it a different way. Have you seen anything? It's a small sample size for Borgonzi and a larger one for Brinker. And if you run through the snap counts on the last 3 drafts that he has been a part of, it's not pretty necessarily. But it's also, we're not sure 100% how much is on him. So my question is, where is your trust level in the two of them to make the right decision about Brian Callahan? Because we know it's Brinker's final say, right? But we know Borgonzi's the GM. You've written entire stories about that dynamic. I assume it's going to be a joint discussion and decision with Brinker making the final say. How do we? Are they the right people to trust in this situation? I'm okay with that because I think they're the best option the Titans have, but I don't know if they're the best option. Period. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who you can trust connected to this team in power. I do think that Rand, had power when he was GM. And, Rand probably had a way of dealing with the Jarvis Brownlees and the Tavondre Sweats that not everybody has. And so now the next guy doesn't necessarily have that. And that's why draft classes get washed out. Vrabel goes up there, and he's done a hell of a lot to get rid of draft class, the last one and the one before that aren't his people. And that's why every time you make a change, the personnel goes behind it. And then there's another comment here, like they should have kept LaFleur instead of Vrabel. I mean, LaFleur went into the best imaginable situation. LaFleur was not very good his first year, certainly in terms of presence and coaching leadership and those things. He had a great team with an all-time great quarterback. You think that's automatically what the Titans would have had if they hired him? Like, you can't see that those would have been two very different situations?
If he's talking about hire LaFleur instead of Vrabel at the time,
Yes.
Vrabel extremely inexperienced as no head coaching experience, and they were a 9-7 football team. So that while they are not the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, they are not the current Tennessee Titans that Brian Callahan inherited either. That was a playoff football team.
But Vrabel came in and did a hell of a job. I mean, his first 3-4 years were good. The back end was bad and got him fired. But to say that LaFleur would have done as well as Vrabel did in this situation, LaFleur does not have the presence that Mike Vrabel had. And the presence that he grew out of having initial success, which he had because he went into a great situation. Vrabel did not come into a great situation. He came into an okay situation, and he made things work. LaFleur, in his first year, minimized Derrick Henry to maximize other people who did not turn out to be anything close to Derrick Henry. And I like LaFleur a lot. Yeah. But I think there's just so much hindsighting going on there to think that, like, the Matt LaFleur who's working now is the guy that the Titans would have gotten back then is crazy talk.
Eddie says, watching early Matt LaFleur, he made a lot of the same errors situationally we're seeing from Brian Callahan. LaFleur had a hot quarterback covering up his early issues he developed from. I think it's more than that. I think you're right, Eddie. I think but to your point, Paul, and I think this is kind of maybe what I'm getting at here. It's not Aaron Rodgers and Hall of Fame Green Bay Packers stuff at the time, but it also isn't this time because they did have a lot better players at almost every position than they do right now. And so there was a lot more room for success for Vrabel or LaFleur in that situation right away. And he still made some mistakes. I think Vrabel,
also he's got no owner. He's got a good general manager, stability situation. I mean, Green Bay is such a better place. Such a better place.
So what's interesting, this is a perfect segue because I do want to ask I want to talk about the tie because I find the reaction to this to be utterly fascinating, including Predemption, what Robbie had to say, or people posting in Nashville media about this. So first of all, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you check out our two great sponsors. Sinkers Beverages, 4-time Liquor Store of the Year, right there in East Nashville. 40 years of service. That's why they keep winning awards. They have a great selection, fantastically knowledgeable staff that they're super nice. They got the THC corner. They got the walk-in beer fridge. They got ready-to-drink liquor drinks. They got all kinds of good stuff in there. Merch, mixers, bar utensils if you need them. Huge wine selection. Awesome bourbon allocation. Everything you possibly need. If you're in Hendersonville and you don't want to come all the way into East, make sure you check out Bluegrass Beverages, which is their sister store run by the same folks, the same quality approach. You can check out them. They've been serving the Hendersonville, Goodlettsville area for 50 years. So this is a company that's been in the market for almost 100 years total combined, serving y'all out there in Middle Tennessee. Sign up for the in-crowd at Sinkers and search Uber Eats Sinkers Beverages to find to have that booze delivered directly to your house. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, also award-winning, also locally owned and operated, the official barbecue of the Houston Oilers. All right. I don't understand why people don't like ties. I don't understand this. Now, I hated it when I was a kid, when I was an immature child that had not developed a prefrontal cortex. If the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys play 70 minutes of brutally back and forth, fun, entertaining football, and they get to the end of 70 minutes, and it is an even score, it is 40-40, that is by definition a dead even football game, in which case it's a tie. And it makes studying the standings the rest of the season more interesting. More interesting. Why do we have to have a winner in one of 17 regular season games? Playoff games, got to have a winner. Got to have a winner. Soccer fans understand this. The rest of the world understands this. Hockey should go back to having ties, in my opinion. If you play 70 minutes of hockey and you are even at 2-2, it's a freaking tie. You both played an even game. If you played the next night, it might be different. But in that moment, it was even. And the tie suggests that it was even and tells people that it was even. I don't understand why, like, one play should decide, or I don't know. I don't understand why people are anti-tie. It's an American problem. I don't get it.
People are going to be disappointed with me because I absolutely agree with you. I have no problem with NFL ties. I think it's a great wrinkle in the standings. And I think in a game like last night's, it was a fitting result to a great game. Now, that was a different sport we watched last night compared to the Titans-Texans game. I mean, the gap between those two games and the quality of play was extraordinary, but the contempt for the tie is just ridiculous. I think it's absolutely fine. Bustin' Diamond and Predemption both want to know the last time the Titans were in a tie. The Houston Oilers played a tie on October 3rd, 1971, 13-13 versus the Saints.
Yikes. And it's the first time they were shut out since 2019. Is that correct?
2019. They've been shut out 7 times since the relocation in 1997.
That Houston Oilers team in 1971, 4-9-1 on the season. That was the first season that Dan Pastorini led the team in passing. I just want to point that out. Yeah, it's been a very, very long time. No Tennessee Titans football team has ever played in a tie. I just don't get it. I don't get the vitriol towards the tie. Like, I don't like. Again, it's a
tough
regular
guy thing. Oh, you got to have a winner.
Yeah. it's much rapid. I'll do anything for a tie right now.
Yeah, all right.
I know there's a lot of Titans fans that probably prefer to be 0-0-4 right now, for sure. Let's see here. Paul, did you meet Nettles and ask him how much he hated Brett?
I did not ask him how much he hated Brett, but I did meet Greg Nettles on Saturday at this huge card and autograph show in Brentwood, less than 10 miles from my house.
This is like your favorite player of all time, right?
Player of all time. And it was extraordinarily cool. The picture came out phenomenal. The happiest you ever see me look. And my wife afterwards said, "Look, 2 crotchety old men looking happy." It was very cool. I've got a little space on the wall over here where I will frame both the picture of me with him and the Sports Illustrated cover, which he signed to my pal Paul.
Oh, nice, dude.
So
nice.
Very, very fired up. I can show you this.
Diamond says, at least we can all laugh at the Mets. Yeah. Oh, there we go. What was it about him? This is a random psychology question, but what was it about his game? I was not alive watching him play. What was it about him that just attracted you to this?
He was such a gritty player, and he was a phenomenal fielder. And I was a much better fielder than hitter. He was a power hitter. I was a non-hitting singles hitter. I really didn't hit at all.
That's why I loved Ray Ordonez so much when I was a kid.
But I mean, this guy, won a World Series game single-handedly against the Dodgers. Just ridiculous defensive performance. And I just loved him. I love him still. And it was weird, because, and I talked to Bullock and Mason. I think I'm going to write about this, just what it's like. Nettles a notch up from winning a couple championships and being part of a New York, an all-time New York team. But what is it about? What is it like? Yeah. What is it like to be told so frequently by people that you're their guy, and how much you meant? I told Nettles, "Hey, you're my boyhood hero and you're the standard for sports in my life. And it's an absolute thrill to meet you." And Bullock and Mason have people tell them that. Yeah. And I'm just curious, like, what's it like to hear that all the time? Does it ever get old and whatever? And I'm going to write a little piece about it, I think.
Nice. I like that.
Display my photo.
It says rewatch the 78 World Series, Braden. I think it was game 3, which I feel like is the game you're talking about there. If this team doesn't get better, they can always move the card show to a $2 billion concert venue.
I think rent would be a little bit high.
Yeah.
I think rent would, the stuff on display at this place, like a handwritten letter by Ty Cobb. I'm just fascinated by the memorabilia. The Reggie Jackson ticket stub, a $15 ticket to his World Series game that he hit the 3 home runs in, signed by Reggie Jackson saying, 3 home run game.
Yeah.
This stuff is just unfathomable.
Eddie says, rough weekend for Braden. Has to cover this god-awful team and the Mets collapse. LOL, but at least
I
you got a tie.
forgot to give you a grief about the Mets.
Go for it.
That's
Go for
beautiful. Look, we could lose 2 out of 2, right away to the Red Sox. Lasted longer than you. And Juan Soto, boy, wow. I mean, what an investment.
He actually
really got things done.
He had a pretty amazing season statistically. However, all I cared
you
about
get the
was
guy to get to the playoffs.
All I care about, you know what they should learn is you should also hire pitchers. But that's just my opinion. But I said that before the season started.
Tough break.
Nobody in my family wanted to listen to that. I did not see a single game this year because I don't watch the Mets. I don't watch the Mets until there's an X next to their name in the standings because I know that if I do, I end up like this.
It's a big X. It's a big X crossing the mount, not that little X staying in the playoffs.
Strike through.
F the Mets.
But I know how to protect myself and I know how to protect my emotions.
162 game season and you have to protect yourself from your team. Boy, that's a fun way to root for baseball.
Titans fans should take a page out of my book. It's smart. I feel nothing right now. I feel no upset. I'm not. I told my wife. I said Mets have to win 2 of the last 3 to get to the playoffs. Otherwise, they're going to choke away a 9-game lead. And she goes, "Ooh, that's not good." so even she knows. Even she understands.
You're not even a fan. You're not even a fan.
Here's the deal. Here's what's awesome about my sports because to kind of finish your point about Nettles. I don't know who really would be that for me other than maybe Brett Favre, but being in this industry and knowing what I know about him, and even at the time we kind of knew what he was to some degree, maybe not this bad, like, stealing taxpayer dollars from like needy children in Mississippi to buy a volleyball arena for his daughter. He's not a good guy. And so I do think the vast majority of our heroes, you don't really want to meet them. Having worked with Derek Mason for a long time and know Keith Bullock, I'd like, I know, you and Frank were very close. Frank was very good to me when I was a young kid and lived in his neighborhood. Like there are some folks that are genuinely worth getting to know. And I think D-Mace has always been extremely kind to everybody I've ever seen him been around. But I don't think I want to meet like Robert Plant. I don't think I want to meet, some of Jack White might be interesting, but like, I don't know if I really want to hang out with Jack White.
It's not a hangout thing.
Brett
And this
Favre,
is what Bullock told me about it. He said, I try to give people their moment. It's 30 seconds or a minute. Yeah. I know it's big to them. And so I give them the moment because I want the guys that I admired that way. I know what it would have been like for me to get the moment from them. I thought it was really great the way he frames it.
I don't know if you love Eminem's music or not. I'm a huge fan, but he's got a documentary that just came out, and it's all about from the perspective of the fans. So it's all the fans being interviewed, which is a really interesting angle from a media perspective. And there's a lot of stories in there about how Eminem one time, called the guy who was a diehard stan, which he wrote a song about that kind of affected his life as an artist. Hey, come on in here, jump in this SUV real fast. Let's chat for a minute. Got a selfie. Gave him his 2 minutes, and then the guy was like, "I got to give you some space, man. I'll get out of here," and he left. But that's sort of what you're saying. What Keith Bullock is saying is like, just give them their space, give them their time. Not everybody thinks like that, though. I think I don't think everybody thinks like that. So
there's also different degrees of the fame. Mason said, "I would never want the kind that some people have, where you can't go to a gas station. That's a different deal."
Yeah, totally different. Ed Henry says, Braden, I watched the Madonna American Pie video 3 times. Are you on the football team? And if so, which one? I am number 7. In the Madonna American Pie video filmed in 1999 at Franklin High School.
I need to watch that.
I am in the video, the music video, which of course is a bad cover song of a previous rock and roll hit. So, this is what I was going to say about bad weekends. My daughter's 2016 team, 3-0 victory. My daughter's 2018 team, 1-0 victory. Nashville SC 3-1 on Saturday night. Arsenal come from behind win over Newcastle, 4-0 on a soccer pitch this weekend. PK, I had a great weekend.
And you just close your eyes to the team that loses. Okay, so I'm going to watch the wins and close my eyes to the losses.
No,
what a way to be a fan.
No, we happened to win the games I watched. That was just a lucky weekend. That's all. I don't close my eyes to the Packers.
You didn't watch the ones that they lost.
I don't watch the Mets. There's a difference. I watch all my teams except the Mets.
This is amazing. I don't watch the one team that loses, so I didn't see any losses.
I have to
Incredible.
protect myself from the Mets.
You're not a fan of the Mets.
You know what an ACE score is? Adverse childhood experiences. Generally,
No.
it's like the abuse in the home and all this kind of stuff. That's what the Mets were to me. And I'm not trying to make light
Now
of
we
ACE
need
scores,
to apologize to people that have this serious thing.
not to take
this
it.
is like
not to,
this is like Rex Road, who compared gout to brain cancer, and I had to apologize to brain cancer victims. I'm the one that has to apologize.
He compared
said
gout to
something.
brain cancer.
We were having a conversation about gout, and he said something about brain cancer. And then on behalf of the radio station, I had to patch things up and apologize to victims of brain cancer.
On behalf of all cancer survivors out there,
and
Joe Rexroad's arthritis is not.
And I
the
didn't even
same.
work for the game. I had to say the guy overconsumes mead and red meat. His suffering is nothing like yours.
I'm sorry. I gotta go find. I gotta text him right now about that. I didn't
Classic
hear about
radio.
it. I didn't know about that. All right, what do you got coming up on the website
He's
this week?
also not a fan of the Mets. I am. It's an extraordinary exercise. People are going to love this. I'm combining the best players from the Ken Wisenhunt teams and the Brian Callahan teams. The Wizahan team.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And we are going to decide, can the Wizahan team compete? I got a preview for you.
Just
Not
use
very
soap.
good.
Just use soap and water on your whizzing hands. All right. Just make sure you, after you go to the restroom, just make sure.
The Wizahan team. Not
After
very
you
good either.
after you take a dump at Nissan Stadium, make sure you wash your hands. Somebody
How
asked me.
good an idea is that? The Wizahan.
Preds fans, I like it. Preds fans, and I know there's a few of you in here. Preds fans asked me when is the last time the two have been this bad at the same time? Meaning you're 4 games into a football season, and there's already despair and destruction for Titans fans trying to talk about the conversations they're having about the future 4 games in, which is when training camp opens for the Nashville Predators. And I had to go back to Wisenhunt when Barry Trotz's last season. They were bad at hockey, and it was 13-14, which I think is the year before Wisenhunt took over in 14, and they had to fire Munchak. So if you go back and look at the worst season of the Preds prior to Peter Laviolette, because then there's excitement, right? You hire a new coach, there's excitement. But the 2013-14 season for the Preds aligns with some of the Ken Wisenhunt football era and the Mike Munchak bad year where he gets fired. So we are talking not that long ago, 13 years or so, where this was just as bad. And the Preds went to a cup and the Titans went to an AFC championship game a few years later. So it can be fixed. I'm going to end on a high note here. It can be fixed.
I'm sure Nick Suss covered it with you. His the years the Titans are good in the decade and the years they're bad. And so we're in a year ending with a 5.
That's right.
And those are not their good years.
Those are not their good years. Otherwise, PK.com, PaulKarski.com, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Thanks to all of you in the comments. You guys are awesome. You guys are fantastic. Always great to talk with you. We do appreciate it. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe. Tell somebody about the YouTube page. We are growing. We'd love to continue to add subscribers. So share that with your Titans fans, SEC football, Predators hockey. We got all kinds of good coverage over there. Hot Read Podcast. I've got a Cam Ward video from James Foster going up tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. Really good stuff from him, of course. We'll see if there's actual regression from him as well. And other than that, everybody have a great one. For Paul Karski, I am Braden Gall. Go Red Sox.